Welcome to Alien Shadow. If you love epic sci-fi stories where humanity shines, you're in the right place. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. For thrilling HFY adventures, join us and be part of the journey. The silent chase wind howled through the narrow canyon, sharp like a blade. Against bare skin, Jara held her daughter close, her feet bleeding as she ran over jagged rocks. The child didn't cry, didn't scream, she just clung tightly to her mother's chest, her small arms wrapped around her neck. Behind them, red lights flickered in the storm. Tracking drones hunting by heat and scent. Jara's heart pounded with panic. Not from fear for herself, but for her child. She whispered in Yuna's ear, "Just a little more, little star, hold on." Dust swirled around them like a living creature, making it hard to see. But Jara didn't stop. She knew if they slowed, the drones would catch them, and Yuna would be taken back. The memory of the breeding compound burned in her mind, the metal cages, the screaming mothers, the cold eyes of their alien masters. Jara had escaped alone with her daughter, crawling through sewage pipes, hiding under corpses, and now running toward a rumor a human man lived out here, far from cities, far from laws. Some said he hated all aliens, others whispered he once saved one. Jara didn't care what was true, had no other choice. Lightning cracked above, revealing a small building in the distance, hidden between crumbling cliffs. Her knees buckled, but she forced herself forward, clutching Yuna even tighter. Another drone zipped above, scanning the rocks with blue beams. Jara ducked into a crack between boulders and held her breath. The drone hovered, then moved on, and she stumbled out, dragging herself to the door. She pounded her fist against the metal gate, her voice dry and cracking. "Please, anyone help us, I beg you." There was no answer, just the wind and the blinking red light from a camera above the door. She looked into it, her eyes wide, showing no weapons, only desperation. "I'm not your enemy," she said slowly. "I'm just a mother inside the shelter." The man watched her on the screen. He had a rough beard, tired eyes, and a scar over his cheek. His hand rested on a plasma rifle, finger on the trigger. He zoomed in, saw the child, saw the bleeding feet, saw the bruises on her arms. He sighed, then stood grabbing his coat. Jara's legs finally gave up, and she collapsed by the door, curling around Yuna like a broken shield. The drone lights returned, growing brighter behind them. Then the door hissed and opened, just enough for a voice to come through. "You've got 5 seconds to tell me why I shouldn't shoot," the human said. Jara raised her face, her lips shaking. "Because she's innocent." He looked down, saw the girl sleeping in her arms, dirty but breathing. "Are they after you?" he asked, his voice like gravel. "Yes," she said, "but not just me. They want her." He stepped out, scanned the canyon, saw the lights moving closer. "Inside," he said quickly. She hesitated, afraid it might be a trap. But then she saw him kneel and scoop the child into his arms. Jara followed, limping, her body screaming in pain. The door shut behind them with a heavy thud, sealed tight with magnetic locks. Inside it was warm and dim, filled with old tools, cables, and strange machines. Rook laid Yuna gently on a padded bench and pointed his rifle at Jara again. "Sit," he ordered, "and don't move unless I say." Jara sat, breathing hard, eyes on her child. "I'm not here to harm you," she said. "I just need it somewhere safe. You picked the wrong species for safety." He muttered, checking the outside cams. Jara studied his face, rough but not cruel, tired but not cold, I heard. Stories, she said, that a human helped someone once. I hoped it was you. Rook didn't answer, just stared at the approaching drones on the screen. They'll find you here, he said, and me too, then let us go, Jara whispered. But please let her rest a moment. Rook didn't move, didn't blink. Then he turned away, pulled out a large blanket, and handed it to her. Cover her with this, keep her quiet, he said. We and LT Unc and GT LL talk after they pass. Jara took the blanket and wrapped it around Yuna, tears in her eyes. Outside, the storm screamed louder. Oh, and the red lights of the drones scanned the rocks. Again, inside, silence hung heavy, except for one soft sound. The deep, slow breathing of a child who, for the first time in days, felt safe, and the man who watched over her with a rifle in one hand and a strange new feeling in his chest. He didn't know what it was yet, but it felt like something worth protecting. Asterisk, a man named Rook. The storm outside grew calmer, but the air inside the shelter was heavy with silence. Sat quietly on the floor, her back against the wall, watching the human move. With careful steps, he didn't talk much, only pointed, nodded, or gave short commands. She had heard many stories about humans, violent, ruthless, war-loving creatures, but this one didn't match them. His name, she learned, was Rook. He didn't say it proudly, just muttered it when she asked what to call him. He offered her a bowl of heated protein stew and sat on the other side of the room, always near his weapon. Jara took the food slowly, sharing most of it with her daughter, who was still curled up under the warm blanket. The child ate with weak hands, then smiled softly before falling back to sleep. Rook watched her for a long time, then spoke without looking at Jara. Why are they hunting you? He asked. Jara lowered her eyes, then told him everything: the slave compound, the cages, the forced breeding, the escape, the whispers of a human who once helped an alien girl. Rook didn't interrupt, didn't ask questions, just listened. When she finished, he stood and walked to a cabinet, pulling out a box of old med supplies. I don't help people anymore, he said. Not since the war. Jara frowned. Then why did you let us in? Rook paused, then pointed at her daughter. Because she looked at me like my sister's kid used to. He sat beside the bench where Yuna lay, gently checking her forehead for fever. My family's gone, he said after a while. Burned alive in a Thawne raid during the ceasefire. Jara's breath caught in her throat, unsure what to say. I joined the retaliation squads, he continued. Did bad things, worse than I can say. He stared at his scarred hands. I thought revenge would help, but it just made me hollow. Jara looked at him with new eyes, not as a monster, but as a man filled with old wounds. She's all I have, she whispered. If they take her, I'll stop breathing. Rook stood and adjusted a sensor near the wall. I won't let that happen. The words hung in the air, firm and final. Jara blinked, surprised. Why? He didn't answer right away. Just check the drone signals outside. They're still circling, he said, but they haven't locked on yet. Then he turned toward her, his voice low. I don't like slavers. Jara gave a small smile for the first time. Then we agree on something. Suddenly the alarm beeped. A new signal appeared near the west ridge. Rook snapped into motion, grabbing his rifle and activating the scrambler field. He looked at her basement trapdoor, far wall under the metal box. Hide there. Jara rushed to it lifting the heavy panel and gently lowering Yuna inside, then followed. Herself, the space was tight and dark. With only a small air vent she could hear movement above. Rook's boots, stepping silently across the floor, then nothing. Minutes passed like hours until finally the door opened and Rook helped them out again. It was just a scout drone passed right by, he said. Breathing hard, Jara wiped her sweaty face. H still racing. You saved us again, she whispered. Rook shrugged. Don't read into it, but she could see it now beneath a rough voice and guarded eyes. There was a man who still cared. That night, after securing every alarm, and Kamaru brought out 3 plates and shared a full meal, Yuna sat beside him, giggling as he tried to pronounce her name in her language. Yora watched in quiet wonder as her daughter leaned against a human's arm without fear. Rook glanced at Jara once. She's strong, he said, like her mother. Jara didn't know how to reply, so she only nodded. Later, after Yuna slept again, Jara sat near the heater and spoke softly. My people believe in soul debt, she said. If someone saves your life, you owe them forever. Rook scoffed. I'm not collecting debts. Jara smiled gently. It's not about payment. It's about honor. Rook stared at the flames in silence, his eyes far away. Used to believe in things like that, he said, before the war made everything dirty. Jara looked down, then whispered, maybe it's time someone cleaned it. Again, outside the night grew colder, but inside something warm had started to grow. A man who had lost everything and a mother who had nothing left now sat under the same roof, and in between them a child who still believed the world could be kind. The hunter's clothes echoed across the canyon hills as red lights flickered in the clouds above. 3 drones moved slowly through the sky, circling like vultures, searching for movement below. Inside the shelter, the screen lit up with alerts, blinking in quiet but urgent rhythm. Rook leaned forward, studying their patterns. They've adjusted their search grid, he muttered. They know someone's hiding out here. Jara stepped beside him, her eyes sharp. Then they're close. Rook nodded. We've got maybe an hour before they sweep this ridge. Yuna sat cross-legged near the heater, drawing shapes in the dust with her tiny fingers, unaware of the danger growing above. We need to hide, Jara said quickly. We can run. Again, no, Rook said firmly. You run. They catch you, they kill me. And the kid ends up back in chains. Jara opened her mouth to argue, but then closed it. Understanding, Rook stood and grabbed a metal box from the corner of the room, setting it on the table with a thud. Inside were old devices, smoke bombs, signal scramblers, and pressure mines. I used to be hunted too, he said. Different war, same cowards. He handed Jara a gray sphere the size of an apple. Toss this if you see anything with red eyes. Jara examined the sphere and nodded silently. Then she looked at Rook. Why are you helping you as like this? Rook gave a half smile. I think I just like making slavers mad. He walked to the back and opened a hidden door leading to a tunnel carved deep into the rock. I built this in case I ever needed to disappear, he said. Now it's your backup exit. The tunnel stretched for hundreds of meters, ending in an overhang that looked out over a dry riverbed. There's a false heat signature rigged at the far end, he explained. It should draw at least 1 drone away. Jara turned to him, her voice low. You planned for war. I planned for regret, he said softly. That always shows up sooner or later. Back Inside, Yuna crawled into his lap. Without asking, curling up like a kitten. Rook didn't push her away, only looked at Jara with tired eyes. She trusts you, Jara said. She doesn't even trust her own blood anymore. Rook looked down at the girl, then at the screen, where the drones blinked closer. Then I guess I better not mess this up, he replied. They spent the next hour preparing, sealing vents, jamming signals, and turning off all lights. Rook placed mines in the rocks outside, set to trigger only if weight passed a certain point. He also covered the shelter in thermal blocking foil, stolen tech from an old black market deal. Jara checked Yuna's pulse, then sat by the wall with her weapon sphere in hand. The clock ticked slow and heavy until suddenly the screen flashed red. 1. Drones descending, Rook said quietly. Other 2 are holding high orbit. He loaded his rifle, turned on the external mics and listened. The hum grew louder, and then came a soft thud, wings against dust, metal touching stone. Jara held her breath as Rook stood near the door. Calm but ready, the drone moved toward the shelter, scanning the surface. Blinking red, it hovered for a moment, then slowly floated to the side as if sensing something off. Suddenly, a sharp beep, one of the mines triggered near the dummy signal zone. A burst of heat and sound exploded in the distance, and the drone turned instantly, flying toward it. Rook exhaled slowly. That bought us maybe 10 minutes. Will they come back? Jara asked. They always do, he answered, but not right away. Jara stepped forward, reaching out slowly, and placed her hand on his shoulder. Thank you, she whispered, for not treating us like dirt. Rook looked at her hand, rough and scarred like his own, and nodded. I didn't save you for thanks, he said. I did it because I know what it feels like to be hunted for something you didn't do. She smiled faintly, and for the first time it wasn't just gratitude, was trust. Later that night, after everything was quiet, they sat around a dim lantern and shared dry food bars. Yuna sat between them, laughing as Rook made silly faces, using a spoon as a mask. Jara laughed too, her voice light and warm, something she hadn't done in years. Rook caught her eye, and neither of them said anything, but both understood something had changed. The storm outside still raged, and the skies still held machines hunting flesh, but inside that small shelter carved into stone, a mother, daughter, and a tired human survivor shared a fragile peace. And even if danger returned tomorrow, tonight they were no longer alone. A new kind of family. The days that followed were quiet, almost too quiet. The drones didn't return. The sky stayed clear, and the sensors picked up no movement. Still, Rook remained cautious, checking the perimeter every few hours, always armed, always watching. But inside the shelter, something softer began to take root. Jara cleaned the floors, repaired broken vents, and organized the storage room without being asked. Yuna helped too, carrying tools in her little hands, laughing when Rook called her junior engineer. Rook didn't smile often, but when he did, it was because of her. One evening, Jara cooked a warm stew using native roots and dried protein. Scent filled the shelter, making it feel less like a bunker and more like a home. Rook sat at the table with his hands folded, watching them eat. He had been alone so long, he'd forgotten what family dinners looked like. After the meal, Yuna curled up in Rook's blanket and fell asleep near the heater. Jara knelt beside him, her voice low and Serious, you gave her something I couldn't, she said, peace. Rook looked down at his hands, then at the child breathing softly under the blanket. I didn't do much, he muttered. I just open a door sometimes, Jar replied. That's all it takes to save a life. They sat in silence, listening to the soft hum of the heater. Then Jara reached into her pouch and pulled out a small glowing stone. It pulsed gently, with violet light, smooth and warm to the touch. This is a life bond token, she said. Where I come from, we give it to those we vow to stay beside. Rook's eyes narrowed. You don't owe me anything. Jara shook her head. This isn't debt. It's choice. She held it out, and for a moment Rook hesitated. Then slowly he took the stone and closed his hand. Around it, the warmth spread through his fingers and into his chest. Jara smiled softly. You're not just a protector anymore, you're a part of us. That night Rook dreamed for the first time in years. He saw himself not in war, but in a field of teas, strange flowers with Yuna chasing glowing insects, and Jara watching with calm eyes. When he awoke, he didn't reach for his rifle first. He just sat up and breathed, letting the peace stay a little longer. The next morning he taught Yuna how to fish using a magnet line. She caught nothing, but she clapped every time the hook splashed, and Aruk laughed quietly each time. Jara watched them from a distance, hands on her knees, her heart full. For the first time since escaping the compound, she didn't feel like prey. She felt like someone rebuilding something worth living for. Later, Rook took them to the old greenhouse behind the rocks. It's mostly overgrown and forgotten. Together they cleaned it out, planted seeds, and fixed the irrigation pump. Jara used her knowledge of alien herbs, while Rook taught her how to build water filters from scraps. They worked side by side, sometimes in silence, sometimes with light teasing when the wind blew through the doorway and carried laughter into the open air. Even the birds returned to perch nearby. One afternoon, a message pinged through Rook's old satellite relay, encrypted, coded, and bouncing from far space. It was from a human colony on the other side of the sector looking for new settlers. Rook read the message twice, then turned to Jara. There's a place we could go, he said. No laws, no patrols, just a big open sky and land to grow things. Jira looked at Yuna, who was drawing flowers on the floor with colored chalk. She took a deep breath. Would they accept us? Rook nodded slowly. If they don't, I won't accept them. They packed light, only what they needed, only what mattered. Before leaving, Rook carved something into the door frame of the shelter, a name, not his alone, not hers, but all three of them. He locked the door one last time and looked at the building, not with regret, but with gratitude. It had been a bunker, battleground, a tomb of memories. But in the end, it became something better. It became the place where a soldier found peace, a mother found hope, and a child found a father. As they walked away from the shelter, Jara held Yuna's hand, and Rook walked beside them with quiet steps. Above them, the stars blinked like watchers in the sky, silent but full of stories. This story now was theirs, and they would write the next chapter together.